Hello, and thank you for joining us. Today, I'm joined by our guests, Robin Arnold and Pernilla Tweddle from 22 Group, also known as Property Stream. Property Stream is part of the 22 Group, Robin. That's why you've got this big 22 sat behind you. So I thought I'd introduce you in that way so that people know what we're all about. I have known Property Stream for quite some time. Because you helped me as an agent with my branding some time ago, and the experience was great. Having a brand identity is obviously something that's extremely important. But what's the process like in terms of getting out of an agent's head of what I've got up here in terms of the image I wish to portray to the public and actually bringing it to life?
So I think, first of all, I'm going to say it is really important, because I think agents quite confident people a lot of the time, and they've got a pretty good idea about who they are or how they'd like to convey it, but very rarely have they sort of written it down and then really sort of tried to articulate it through creative means. And that's always where we start, is having that workshop and really getting to the bottom of who the agents are, what they're all about, what their brand story is, what their values are. And that's a really good place to start in terms of getting a picture of, and it's also really important to try and get across why they're different from their competitors, because that can be a really hard thing to do. So that's always a great place to start, is a workshop with the agents, and ideally with some of the team as well, and just getting it all out there for us to then write down, first of all. And that's where Pernilla is absolutely phenomenal. Is just an amazing copywriter as well as experienced marketer. But getting that personality down in writing it is where we start with, David.
So Pernilla, you bring both of those things to the table, because as I understand, we were talking off camera that you have a pedigree in sort of journalism, but also in hands-on property experience as well. So you balance those two skills very. It's a very, I suppose, a very sensitive balance that you need to strike between these two things. But how much of that do you bring to your day-to-day role at Property Stream?
Yeah, well, I do bring that to the table with all the clients that we work with, in all honesty. So I had the benefit, obviously, of working on the client side for many years when I was part of a big estate agency group and headed up the marketing there. So I think that's key in me being able to identify with the client and know how they act, what's important to them, how they will view and interpret agencies like us. That's actually really useful. So I guess, yeah, sometimes we can cut through things just to get to the point which I know they're interested in. And also, we very much went through this process as a client in identifying the brand and what we stood for, and having that documented by another agency. And so I know the benefits it can bring to the estate agency.
Because having a brand identity and wishing to convey those values, in as much as we can all articulate, perhaps in a couple of paragraphs, what we feel we bring to the table for our clients as agents, it permeates throughout everything that you do. So, for instance, you know, Kerfuffle has a very garish pink logo. We're in everybody's face, but that might not be suitable for an agent who wishes to sort of attract a certain audience who may be of a different age or a different mindset. So there are, choosing a logo, choosing a brand identity, it's not simple. You need to really give these things thought.
Definitely. Obviously, you can see I like the Kerfuffle pink because I'm choosing to wear something similar myself today. But no, you're right, and that's why, as Robin said, it's not just necessarily the senior members of the team. It's really great if you get lots of people within the agency to get involved, potentially even other stakeholders and even customers, because it's getting to the idea, well, we think we know what we're about, but what do other people think? And I think, again, for slightly larger agencies, to listen to other members of the team sometimes more junior, can be really quite enlightening for them.
Yeah.
And again, they often find the whole exercise as a really good team, almost like a team building exercise as well. They get time out from the day to day to actually sit down and think about, well, what we're about, what are our goals and objectives, what are our values, what's the tone that we want to make sure is consistent throughout both branding, website and marketing, and and then, as Robin said, documenting it down, which is where we come in and help them with all that. Yeah.
It is it's important to get that sense of perspective and focus from all the team, because as I get older now, in my middle years, as I like to call them, I'm losing touch with the younger generation, who the TikTok generation. There is a massive gap, isn't there, really, between the TikTok generation and the Channel 4 generation. You know, what was cool in my day is now no longer, and they talk an entirely different language. And although sometimes agents are fast to dismiss perhaps that TikTok audience as being immature, they're the sellers and buyers of tomorrow. And that's going to come on extremely quickly. And so you need that kind of holistic approach, which will take experience, but also a bit of youthfulness as well, and throw it into the mix.
Yeah, I totally agree. So back in the office today, for the first time with most of the staff, and we got 4 people in here all wearing checkered tops. Now I wouldn't have known that's fashionable, but that's clear. There's clearly something going on there, and this is the younger generation. So people in the 20s and stuff. So
Who would have known that being a lumberjack would be cool again?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, and I'm going to really deviate now, but I'm sort of wearing slightly baggier jeans. But when we went into lockdown, everyone was wearing really tight, basically really tight jeans. So it's come like a full circle. But luckily, I'm still wearing baggy jeans because that's what was fashionable 5 years ago. So it's yeah, it is great to take all the inspiration from other people and get the feedback from other people outside your scope, and different sectors is something we've always really believed in. You know, not just working in the property sector and getting inspiration from sectors like finance. At some stage, we did a website for the Sunday Sport, which is crazy, but never keep it, you know, just to one thing, because we pulled all sorts of inspiration and ideas from other sectors, charity, and yeah,
I think that's going to be important in keeping something fresh and current, is that you need to have something that you can adapt, because if it's too kind of old and stuffy, you're not going to be able to make that evolve over a period of time. It needs to be a bit flexible. But the ultimate kind of expression of a brand identity is very often online in what we do, both on social media, but it can also be most pronounced on a website. So everybody has a website. That is our digital business card, if you like. It's the first thing that people check when they're checking whether or not they wish to deal with you. Very often, if you're checking a company out for the first time, you may go onto their website to check reviews and just to talk about, maybe look at members of the team and just see how they describe themselves and their services. So it's the first port of call. That very much is the first thing that you guys concentrate on once you know the general direction the brand is going in.
Definitely. So it was always the original inspiration for our company. It was, my background is branding, and then my business partners was digital, websites and marketing. So those 3 things joined up. And that's for a very good reason. When I've been sort of creative director of other agencies in the past, we either did digital agency or a creative agency, and things get lost in translation. And that was a real frustration, because you might do an amazing brand, but then you pass it over to the website agency and they've got their own ideas, or they don't manage to articulate it properly. So having that sort of seamless integration of those 3 things, you know, brand, website and marketing, all under one roof, is what we're all about. And I think it's so important. It's that sort of one-stop shop. It also makes things easier for the agent.
Yeah,
because they've got somebody that they can come to, and I guess though that, you know, if something doesn't feel right, it doesn't fit in the website, or it doesn't match the initial concept, you guys will feel it, but the agent will as well. And getting a website right and getting the brand right, it's not a one-shot go, is it really? You work on it. It evolves as a concept until you get it 100% right.
Exactly, but properly conveying on a website or a bit of social media who you are, what you're about, and what your values are. It is a hard thing to do, and it's not the same. You know, we do work with agents who'll just come to us for a website and just come to us for a marketing. That's fine. But the agents where we've done all three of them, you know, it is like gold dust. You've got everything together, and you're able to translate who they are perfectly across the three disciplines.
Yeah, I think you touched on that, David, as well, that some agents are, they might get the branding, or let's say they've done some work on the branding. They know they need a website, but then then you've got your marketing side, but you've also got your internal processes. So you've got your own, the CRM system and everything that churns out. That often kind of brings to the fore lots of discrepancies where it's just not consistent. So again, I guess in an ideal world, we'll help a client with all those things, because we can then make it seamless and make sure that the tone is right and the look and feel is consistent. Because I'm a great believer that consistency is one of the kind of ingredients of driving trust. If you think of all the great brands out there that we all like and we value, and we would never question their integrity, we know that if you look at what they do branding wise and their online presence and their marketing, it's always so consistent. You never need to question, oh, is that so and so, or oh, I thought they had that color, or it's just always consistent.
We're going to go for some product placement now.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're
say
talking about, Manila. No, never heard of that brand before.
Never heard of them.
But you're right, and I think in terms of running agencies and business, that consistency, if you can get that to filter down to your processes, it also means that you're delivering consistent customer service in every experience. So I could be a customer of your agency, then Robin could come along, and we would have, largely speaking, the same experience, because you've got the processes ironed out, but you've also got that identity is present throughout everything that you do. And one of the things we talked about earlier is that sometimes there is that disconnect between, you know, people have this most fantastic website, they spend a lot of money getting the brand identity and the website looking fantastic. And then in terms of marketing, they may then go and do something else online. Perhaps you'll see Facebook adverts or whatever it is that they've decided that they're going to do themselves. But in terms of it's off message, it does not rhyme true with the original concept of the website. Your website is conveying one set of values, your messaging on social media is conveying another, and all you're doing is diluting that message and confusing the customer as well. And if you are trying to engender trust, one of the things you want to do is make that process and that identity as you know, congruent across the whole gamut of everything that you're dealing with there.
It's really easy to get sidetracked, and as sort of creative people, it is that shiny thing. Let's have a go at something else. Let's go off and do that. And that's something I've actually done in the past myself. But having someone else to sort of guide you with that is the easiest way of doing it. I think I know that Mark from Mayors won't mind me sharing this. I'm good friends with him, and so we created that brand for him that was based around his values, which is a really good place to start.
Yeah.
And I think recruitment, asking people when they're coming to apply for a job what their values are, is an even better place to start. But we started that brand many years ago, and we used the animals to convey the brand values. And then sort of 5 or 6 years later, he was really growing and doing particularly well. And he came back to mature the brand. And so we got rid of we toned down the amount of bright colors. And so we matured the brand. But there was a question then, you know, should we move away from the animals? And I think, you know, if I hadn't been there to say, look, Mark, I know you might be used to these things. And even, you know, even if you're a bit sick of them, your whole town love them. And it's you're looking to scale this beyond your town and to other areas, and they won't have seen these. So what works so well in the first place is going to work everywhere you go. And I think that's sort of guiding hand from my point of view to say, look, stop. No, let's not go off and do something that's different. And because this is, I truly believe this is right for you. And he listened to me, which is great. And yeah, so I think it's benefited massively because of that. Because yeah, and he's doing particularly well with this sort of brand in different areas.
Yeah, no, it looks great, and it remains sort of fresh and modern as well. I was just talking to Mark this morning as it happened.
Oh wow!
So there you go, small world. But in terms of keeping a brand fresh, how often do you think that agents need to reinvent that wheel for themselves? So I've asked you guys to do me a new website. We're online. You're looking after my marketing. We're having a great time. At what point should I be saying, well, do we need to look at things again?
I think only if you really feel that your values and your vision has all changed, or you are looking to mature things. But I'm also a big believer in not changing things for change's sake. So like a subtle brand evolution can often work really well. So, and that's what we did with Nickel & Co a few years ago. We said, love the color, the purple works really well.
Yeah, it's a strong
you've got
colour.
an amazing typeface, but let's just get rid of some of the clutter around the typeface. So we don't need it in a box, and we don't need to always bolt a state agency underneath it. And let's get rid of everything around it. And then that's all that was needed. And just let's darken the purple, so it's just a bit more sophisticated. And that was, they weren't massive changes, but it made all the difference. And I'm a big believer, so if you came to me and said, we're not quite sure where we are, we've matured, we're offering different services, we'll always look at that. Is there something we can do with what you currently have, so we're not starting from scratch again?
That's another great example of an agent that's forward thinking, but their brand and their presence has really really grown, hasn't it, over the past few years? They're great. So if I've got Property Stream in my corner and you are looking after my brand, you've done me this fantastic website. When it comes to ongoing marketing, how much of that do you handle? Do you deal with sort of social media? Would you guide me in terms of general advertising content? How far does it go?
I'll answer that one, shall I, Robin? Yeah, because it's kind of my remit. The answer is we'll do pretty much anything and everything, but it will be very much dependent on what that agency wants and needs. So we would like to start with that strategy piece, where we look at what's your challenges, what your pain points, what's your objective. Now, 9 times out of 10, the agent will say to us, we need more valuations, which is absolutely the lifeblood. So we get all that. So once we've done that, so although we've talked a lot about the importance of an identity and trust, we also completely understand that it needs to be hard-hitting messages that's going to drive those vals and leads. So then it's about just making sure that we do what they need us to do. So for example, we can work on strategy and planning. We can work on creating all the assets that they need for those channels. So for example, if it's social media animations or static visuals, we can work on website content, so blogs, that kind of thing. We do a lot of blog writing for clients, uploading it to the website, and then making sure that they then also share it on social, because a lot of people have some blog writers, or they are sort of some keen writers themselves, and they populate their site with refreshed content, which is absolutely key. But then they don't do anything more with it, so it sort of sits there, and that's a real shame. And I would almost go as far as saying that's potentially just wasting your money, because unless it's so optimized that it can be found by Google, which we'll always pay attention to that, but it does need to be shared as well. So we can do that. We can actually post all the social media. We can do a scheduling tool for them if they want. We can run paid ads and Google ads. So it's the whole piece, really. SEO is another part of what we offer. So again, if we do work on a website, we're obviously acutely aware of on-page optimization and all that, but we can also offer that as an ongoing service, because obviously keeping an eye on how you're ranking on Google and what the latest algorithms are, and is something that most agents need to have it sort of as a consistent want, really.
It's not just vanity. I don't just want to see my name as number one, but I want to make sure that prospective customer, when they Google estate agent in whatever area, I stand a good chance of keeping at the top. And Google changed their criteria and their algorithm all the time. So you need to stay on that, don't you?
You do need to stay on that. And that's really interesting what you said, because I would argue that maybe even 5 years ago, there was still that kind of, an agent would want to be on page one of Google because they want to make sure that they're above their competitors. Now the conversation has gone right round, and they now realize, like you said, I need to be there because it's what the next generation, it's how they're going to find me.
Yeah.
And all those search terms have changed and are constantly changing, and everything that you should do. So there's a whole raft of things that would be quite cumbersome for an agent to stay on top of. So things like looking after your Google My Business, we can offer services to that, populating content on there. It's a whole remit, but we'd like to kind of start by just assessing, where are your pain points? What have you got in-house? Where can we add value to that? And obviously the creative team, I don't know if we talked enough about that, but the teams that I work with, our creative guys and designers, they're so adept at creating amazing designs and animations that go really well on the social media plans that I might put together. So
fantastic. So obviously all your details can be found on Kerfuffle, but more importantly, if I'm an agent and I want to access your services, or even if I just want to dip my toe in the water because I need your opinion first of all of what I'm currently doing, are you guys willing to have a look at my branding and my website and sort of give me a little bit of a score out of 10 or 22?
Absolutely. What your particular branding?
No, well, not mine particularly, but I now represent all the other agents.
I'm only joking. Yeah. I've got loads to say about your branding, but no, absolutely no opinions. I know that other suppliers will do the same, but yeah, opinions, and I will always be honest about that. It's one of our true values is being straight talking. They say it's because of our Manchester roots, but I'm from down south originally. But it's something we truly believe in, doing what it says on the tin, delivering, but just being honest. If we don't like something, you need to get it out, really.
I think sometimes we just need a fresh perspective on these things, and hopefully that's something that you can bring to the table. So thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks, David.
We'll catch up with you again soon.
Brilliant.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.